Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Ion Canon podcast, your home on the Star Wars Underworld podcast network for in-depth discussion on the lore, the High Republic, and the whole canon of the galaxy far, far away. My name is Matthew, and I'm coming to you from Underworld North Studios here in Toronto, Ontario, Canada. As always, I am joined across the continent by your friend and mine, Mr. Joel Davis. Joel, how are you doing this week?
I'm doing good, and no, I did not see the eclipse, so womp womp for me.
I almost did. It was cloud cover, all that jazz, but I saw a bit of it. Anyway, this week we're talking about Glup Shitto, as the name describe the title. Glup. Is Glup? How do we pronounce it? Glup, Gloop. We'll get into that. What a term. What does it mean? How do they function in Star Wars storytelling? And maybe more importantly for Star Wars fans, is having a favorite Glup, Gloop, whatever Shitto just a bit of fun, a badge of honor, something else. We'll figure that out. To help us sort all that out. You can see him on the screen there on video. It's the one and only Tommy Stella. How are you doing, Tommy?
Hi, I'm doing great. I'm really excited to help sort out the pronunciation of that word. It's not glop. We got that ruled out already.
Are we sure?
It's definitely not glop. We'll get to the bottom of it later in the podcast.
There we go.
How about you?
What's your hot dog count today?
I'm at 0 hot dogs. I haven't had too many. I went to MegaCon. I was tweeting about this. I went to MegaCon and I had like 2 hot dogs that were both like the color of like the wall behind me, and that put me out of commission. I spent the whole time just standing like just waiting for myself to vomit. So I've been cutting back on the hot dogs, but I have had one since then. That's the hot update for you guys. No one knows about that.
All right, there we go. Late breaking news.
Hot dog scoop. But I look forward to having more that aren't terrible.
There you go.
But I did turn 30, and that was the first hot dogs I had since turning 30.
Right.
And I think that was a sign,
Okay. I've had 2 today, so
nice.
I've beaten your record.
Well, on that note, happy birthday.
I'm leaving. I didn't know I'd be showed up like this.
So,
you guys didn't warn me.
Before get into plugs and everything, I gotta say, so I have this idea, because part of the joke was whenever at New York Comic Con, whenever I'd run into you, I'd be like, have you had a hot dog today? Have you had a hot dog today? Just playing up the joke that you make on Twitter for everybody. And I'm sure I'm the first person to ask you that ever. But I kind of have an idea of, I'm just manifesting this to the internet right now. Like, next time I'm at a con and you're at a con, like, have a hot dog eating kind of contest live on YouTube, but not really a contest. But just stand there eating hot dogs and chatting.
Yeah, I think if you wanna buy the hot dogs,
I'll buy the hot dogs.
I'm pretty sure the max I can have is like 2, maybe 3. But like, we can turn it into a competition where I just casually eat 2 hot dogs while you just like scarf down 20. And then it's like, who's the real winner?
No,
the guy that got
you be the winner. You be the winner.
Yeah.
There we go.
Goodness.
All right. Before we get into putting Tommy on the hot seat with some questions, good, welcoming, enjoyable questions, I hope. Got to get some plugs out of the way. You can follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Threads at Ion Canon Pod, EYEONCANONPOD. Here on the Star Wars Underworld YouTube channel, we got super chats and we got YouTube memberships, also the Discord, Star Wars Underworld Discord. Check us out. The link down below. Chatting away about all things Star Wars, Marvel, Star Trek, all that fun stuff. The eclipse today. Oh yeah, there's the eclipse today. Different things like that. Kind of a collecting haul if you get some collections and Star Wars collecting, etc. And check that out. And then Joel, anything happening in the Discord coming up soon?
Yes, this Friday we are having a movie night. Nice. We're gonna be watching a little movie called American Graffiti.
Ooh, that's a good one. I watched that on a plane at 4 a.m, about to fall asleep the whole time. So I have terrible memories of that movie, but I heard it's good.
I feel like Harrison Ford's about to fall asleep, but no.
I was sitting in between the 2 oldest ladies that you've ever seen in your life. It was in the middle of the night. They were very kind to me. Pretty good movie. I would give it like an 8 out of 10.
Yes.
Nice. Well,
and
yeah.
So right now, check down the description below, and then it's in the, I guess, kind of the live chat section of whatever. We'll find it. And Tommy, you're yes, you're a comic writer's assistant. Also, definitely a comic author in your own right. And you have a book just released. Tell us about Mustn't Tell. Where can they buy it? Where can they find it? And then we'll get more.
So Mustn't Tell is a 5-issue all ages horror story. That was the first 2 issues were just funded on Kickstarter, which is really, really cool. One of the artists, BA, I think is still in the chat of this thing, this live stream right now. Say hi, BA, if you're still here. Saw he left 2 comments. And yeah, it's essentially just a story about 2 friends, 2 best friends that they're like 10 years old, and there's a monster haunting one of their homes, and they have to kill it by all means necessary. But we kind of compare it. We say with the pitches like, what if Disney did a horror movie? Because it's like it is about that, but it's also about a lot of like emotional beats and growing up and anxiety, and there's a lot of twists and turns and all that. And I think issue like 4 and 5 are gonna make everyone just like sob, which is kind of my thing apparently. Yeah, we're very excited. It was funded. We got like over $6,000 on Kickstarter, which is really, really cool. It was our first project ever, and I did not think we'd get that much. Shout out to all the backers. It's currently available in PDF form on our Gumroad, which is like a digital distribution service, which you can go if you go on radasheck.gumroad.com or just look on my Twitter. I tweeted about it 30 times today. Yeah, we're very excited about it. There's 2 artists on the project. One of them is B.A. Roth, B.A. Roth. I want to make sure I pronounce it correct. He's the haunter of the book. Basically anything that's a monster or like a scary aspect, like darkness or weird effects, that's all BA. And then we also have John McDaniel, who is doing like 90% of the rest of the art. He has this like cool Disney-esque kind of like cutesy art style. And the 2 of them together has just been really, really cool and like super different. Yeah, there it is.
Yeah. Right on.
And yeah, we're very excited. Issue 3 will be coming soon to Kickstarter. It's going to be the main spot to get physical copies of issues 1 and 2 now that the Kickstarter is done. So basically every time there's a new campaign, we will have the old issues to kind of like lump them all together, and then you can get the whole series. And yeah, we're very excited.
And I mean, I've only gotten to issue 1. I've read issue 1. I have issue 2. Supported the Kickstarter. Yeah, and yeah, it's off to a great start. So
cool. Thank you very much.
Definitely well written, well done. Where can they find you on Twitter, first of all?
It's just my name, Tommy_Stella. It's a photo of me going with a phone like this.
Yes. Yeah, I think Joel just took that and used it in the thumbnail. Full disclosure.
Perfect. That's what I'm most known as. So
there we go. Really? Okay, so we'll pick up on a little bit of that in a little bit. Very quickly back to the plugs. Again, Tractor Beam Comics reviews. Wednesdays are for comics. Comics are for Wednesdays. Speaking of comics, but in this case, Star Wars comics and Insider short stories, if those are out. So Chris Abbott and I, Wednesdays right here on the Star Wars Underworld YouTube channel and all the socials. We talk about the comics that came out that day. Very briefly chatting about things, maybe sometimes a little bit of news in there. So that's right here at 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific on the channel, and check that out. We got a comics heavy show today, so relatively heavy.
Yeah.
So push right through that. Yeah. So and that one actually, just a side note, that one got birthed in the writer's strike and the actor's strike, and so it was like, okay, those aren't struck work. Give them their spotlight, give them their due.
Yeah. Happy almost birthday to those segments.
Yeah, so it's pretty good. Right on. So check that out. If everyone's so inclined. Let's dive back into chatting with Tommy here on Iron Canon. You mentioned you're a comics writer, you're just a comics author, you're also a Star Wars fan. And whenever we want to bring someone on, we want to ask them, what were your first Star Wars memories? How did you get into it? And what kinds of things do you love about Star Wars?
Yeah. It's funny. I was literally just talking about this, and I feel like it's one of those things that you can just like kind of talk about forever. Like as a creative person, like this like where did all like the foundation for your imagination start? And I do feel like it was with Star Wars. I'm not just saying that. I feel like it's an easy thing to just say. But I remember when I was like 4 or 5 or 6, it was whenever Phantom Menace came out and they were doing the big toy line push.
Yeah.
I was very much their target audience for that. And I had no idea what Star Wars was, but I knew that it encouraged me to swing a plastic sword at my friends and go. So I remember just like, I didn't know what the Force was. Like, we were doing the pushing. I didn't know what it meant, but it was just like the thing that just opened my mind up to just playing pretend and imagination and all that. Because before then, I didn't really know. I remember like pretending to be a dog, but like that can only go so far. There's no trade disputes or blockades and dog playing.
As far as we know.
As far as we know, that'd be an interesting,
Dog Wars.
Ooh, Dog Wars would be good. But yeah, so like all those toys and watching the movie, I remember the pod racing scene was like the thing that really like spoke to me in Phantom Menace. Obviously the fighting was cool and all that. A lot of the rest of the stuff went way over my head at the time, still does sometimes. But there was just something about the pod racing and the buying the plastic swords. And I had like an Anakin action figure with like a young Anakin action figure who doesn't do anything. He just stands there like this with a backpack on, but I loved it. My mom like spoiled Empire for me. I was like playing with the toy and she was like, Luke, that other guy that kind of looks like that. And I was like, I think so. And she was like, that's his dad as a little kid. And that's how I got the Luke, I'm your father spoiled for me by my mom. But yeah, those are my earliest memories. I was a total victim to George Lucas taking over Toys R Us. I don't regret it at all. It's so fun. And then from there, I just kind of kept track of it like a normal like fan would, nothing crazy. And then in the last several years, I've kind of like jumped more headfirst into all the shenanigans. And with Disney's release cycle right now, it makes it very easy to have a lot of shenanigans to jump into right now. So
yeah,
it's a lot of fun.
Plus. Just say, well, definitely the prequel generation, right? And I'm wondering, how many, first of all, how we're all, I think, of the age where we could say we're the prequel generation. I guess I was a little older, but I wonder, if you're not alone in those folks who are all, the Anakin kid, of course he's Luke's dad. They have the same last name, why not, right? But fair.
I wouldn't have known. I would have no idea. I was not piecing it together. I didn't think I watched the original trilogy until I was like 12, maybe. Like I watched the prequels, and then I think the original trilogy was on like TNT at some point or something, like a random channel, and I was like, "What's Star Wars?" Like I think my original original trilogy memories and experience was I had the like, I mean, your prop for this. There was like a Millennium Falcon that you put onto your keyboard, and then when it's on the keyboard, you like put the toys into it and like onto the seats, and then if you push down on the seats, they push the button underneath, and then you did like a Dragon's Lair like FMV to the movies kind of like thing where it was like Darth Vader's coming, press the button. And that was the original trilogy for me. It was the keyboard game.
There we go. I mean, again, Star Wars merchandising. I think we're going to get a bit to merchandising at the very end of the show because I think the Glup Shitto thing does tie in.
To talk about, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Did you have Star Wars the flamethrower going up at the kid?
Is it Star Wars flamethrower?
No, Spaceballs joke.
It's a Spaceballs joke.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah. It's such a good joke that I believed you entirely for a second.
Mel Brooks, he's got the thing. How excited are you for the Phantom Menace coming out in theaters? Do you have your ticket yet?
I'm very excited. I'm extra excited because I could be a curmudgeon for a second to have like a theater of people that are excited to see the movie. Movies right now, I feel like when you go to the theater, it's like people on their phones and people talking the whole time. So I'm very excited. I think the people going to the 25th anniversary of Phantom Menace are people that want to watch the Phantom Menace. So I live upstate New York, so like the theater is not going to be like super crowded or packed, but I almost kind of want to go to like a more populated area, see if like there could be like more of a crowd. But I'm excited. I'm probably going to forget. I think that's kind of what I usually do. It's going to be the Monday after, and I'm going to be like, oh yeah, forgot to go to that. But if I remember, I'm very excited. What about you?
For Cineplex here in Canada, I see that from the 3rd to the 7th is the window there. So you have a bit. I don't know if it's true down there, but
I need to find out.
I will say I've lost count how many times I've told people to shut up or put their phone away in the theater. So
that's so brave of you. I'm always too afraid. I spend the entire movie thinking about it. I'm never not thinking about it, and then I say nothing and I go home upset every time. Without fail. I don't like conflict. Too scary.
Fair. I mean, I hear that too. I'm like that too. But if you're paying for it, you're paying for the ticket.
No, you're right. It's admirable. Too scary. Teens is scary.
That's fair. So I mentioned comics author, talked about Must and Tell. Shifting a bit of gears, how did you get into Star Wars fan? How did you get into writing your own stories and writing your own comics?
It's actually the 10-year anniversary, like to the day of when I kind of decided to do this, which is crazy. Basically, when I went to school, when I was in college, I was doing music. I thought I was going to be like a songwriter. And then I failed out of that program. And basically, I didn't know how to do ear training, which is like when the professor plays some notes and then he's like, what was that? And you're supposed to be like, that was a C. Couldn't do that. So I failed out. But on the same day as when I failed out, I got held after by I took a random English class, which is part of my like requirements. And for the final, the teacher was like, you could write whatever you want. It could be about one of the books we read. It could be a short story. It could be just a journal, like whatever you want to do. That's our final. It was a very liberal arts school where we were crazy. But I did a short story that I was just like, I want to tell a story. Like, that sounds so fun. And I did. And then she held me after class because she thought I plagiarized the whole thing.
Oh, no.
And I didn't. I wrote it, which is cool. And she was like, I was reading this and I was like, where have I seen this before? Like, it sounds familiar. Like, it seems like the quality is too good for some random guy that's just taking this class to take it. And I explained to her, I was like, no, I wrote that. Like, that's all me. And then she's like, you need to switch your major. And I was like, that's a funny coincidence because I do need to switch my major. So I switched to English. And I'd always loved comic books. But thankfully, also that semester, I lived with two guys. We were like in a dorm room of like 6 people. And 2 of them were just obsessed with comics. And they were just like, you got to read all this stuff. So they were giving me like Ultimate Spider-Man, which I was like loosely familiar with, but I never had the ability to like collect it, but they had them all. And then they like, took me to the comic shops and all that. So those 2 things kind of happening at the same time. I was like, I like telling stories and I like comics. So I just dove into it. Like, it had always been in the back of my mind, just growing up, like loving all the superheroes and all that. But it was always like very video game and movie focused. So being able to do it like comic wise was really cool. And then once I started working on them, like the interaction that you have with the artists, shout out to BA and all the other artists I worked with, Jenna McMullins, Echo Costello and John McDaniel. It's just so fun. Like nothing beats it as a writer who has not a lot of artistic or drawing abilities, being able to just like send someone words and then they make it into a thing. That's so cool.
Were there any particular comics or authors that you remember those early years that really stood out to you?
Yeah, I think the 2 that there was definitely Ultimate Spider-Man was the first one that I read like the entirety of. Like, I was buying the digital copies and just going through it. That was one that I think just like opened my brain to like giant long storytelling. Like, I think Ultimate Spider-Man's like 150 issues, give or take, from beginning to end. And I was like, you could tell something for that long? That's crazy. And then I think Tom King's Vision series was the first one that I read that was like a superhero one that felt very like literary. Like, I really liked how much the characters changed throughout it. And it reminded me of a lot of like the novels and the short stories that I really appreciated. So it just kind of like made me realize that kind of storytelling can happen in comics. And that got me really excited. And obviously he's not the only one that does that. There's a trillion comics that do that, but he was the first one that I read that I was just like, oh, you can tell a story with like this much character. And this one's about androids, which is even cooler.
Right. That's the one where he moves to like suburban DC.
Yeah.
And Wanda, or not Wanda. No, he just like makes his own family.
Yeah, Wanda's is the whole family, and they all like deal with the trouble of being androids with sentience. It's insane, but it's really good, and I liked it. Yeah,
it's one of the early ones I read too. So, yeah. And then I guess Ultimate Spider-Man. That's Bendis, right? By Michael Bendis.
Oh yeah,
yes,
yeah.
Just give some credits there. Yeah, and then of course leading all the way to today, and we talked about Must and Tell. Maybe can we pick up on that a little more? So what is the story idea for that, and how did you come up with that story idea?
Yeah. So
I mean,
I always hate this part because the premise of the story is still in spoiler territory for the rest of it,
sure.
which is such a lame thing to say because it's like part of my real life. So I always feel like such a jerk. But there's a
We're Star Wars fans. It's okay. We're used to it.
that's fair. That's fair. Yeah, yeah. You're used to it. You can't tell the Disney's gonna get me, you know.
Little red
Basically,
dot on your head.
it's based on like the period of your childhood and adolescence where you are old enough to like be given certain knowledge and responsibilities, but too young to quite know how to handle that. So it's like right on that little like cusp, you know, right where you're like maybe like 11, 12, 13. Usually it's very situational. And for me, it was when I was 13 was when that kind of happened to me when certain events in my life kind of like made me have to grow up quickly. And that's what the story is about. So it's a horror story with a monster that's haunting, but the monster represents more than just fear. And that's kind of where the story came into play. I think once issue 5 comes out, I'll like talk about like the exact like moment of my life that inspired it. Because if you read issue 1, you know that in the very beginning, the main character picks up a photograph. That's something that happened to me in real life, which makes no sense right now. It's not spoiler territory, but it will make sense in issue 5. So I'll explain it later then.
Sure.
But yeah, there was like just enough of me in the story to start it off, and then the rest of it is completely made up. I didn't have a best friend like that growing up, all that stuff. But the like metaphors and all that stuff is straight out of not only my life but like everyone's life. And I hope that the takeaway when people read it is they see the fears and the anxieties and all the confusing changes and all that, and their main reaction is like, oh, like I get that, like I've been there as well. And if that happens, then I'll be happy. Then I think the story landed.
I think this is probably true for everyone's every story ever. But it specifically mustn't tell, and that's a grand statement. What's it like putting yourself and your own memories into this story specifically?
It's partly therapeutic. I don't want to say it's like fully therapeutic because that's kind of an insult to therapy, because that is
like
better.
actually people go to therapy.
Actually going to therapy much better.
Yeah.
But it's been nice because it just allows me to I think about it in a more complex way than at face value. And I think there's when you're doing something like that and then planning like the ending of the story, like when I first created the story, it did not have a happy ending. And I think that was just because I had the idea a few years ago when I was like not ready to be happy about this thing. Once again, spoiler territory, tons of fun to talk about right now. But since doing so, I have completely changed what the direction of the story was. And I think the reason why I did that was not only because it's better, but because like it was something that I was like allowing myself to do in a sense. And I'm happy that the story is coming about now when I'm in a better place than I was when I first kind of like thought of the story, you know? So it is, I mean, also I think the way to get me to that point is I've had, stories like The Days with BA come out, and that one was like fully like a trauma dump about grief, but I tried to do it in a very creative way. Like that was like more like kind of innocent and surreal and different. And it landed very well with everyone. Like it seemed like everyone had kind of had an experience where they didn't quite know how to handle a loss like that. And I think having like my own trauma put into a story, then people are like, I get this makes sense. It kind of opened me up to like give things a better outlook on give like the things that the myself that I put into it kind of have a happier ending and a better outlook all throughout, which made it for the better. It's got a good ending. I'm very proud of it.
Yeah, it's good to know that you're coming at it from a more fully baked perspective. But I read some stories and even some memoirs and whatnot, and they're clearly kind of half baked, kind of in the process. And that's part of working it out, but you can tell that they don't necessarily have as much to contribute to other people's stories, other people's healing. Then I'm looking forward to then how this story can contribute to having a more nuanced, rounded perspective. Is that a fair way of putting it?
Yeah, I think so. I think stories don't need a happy ending, but I
Sure.
think this one did, and I'm happy that I figured it out. And yeah, I mean, as far as like things being well-rounded, I usually don't go into a story until I know the ending of it. I'm not very like good at both reading and writing stories that are just like could go anywhere. We'll find out. Like, gonna write a million of these issues. That's just not how my brain works. So it's a 5-issue thing, and then I got a nice little bow on it.
Yeah. Speaking of a million issues, I do want to ask a little bit about being a comics writer's assistant, because that has involved quite a substantial number of issues, actual comic book issues. What does that work entail practically, and what have you learned both practically and even with Kickstarter? I know that's part of your job, and also just the craft of storytelling.
Yeah, I think, I mean, as far as doing that job for, oh god, it's almost 6 years now. Doing it for almost 6 years, like you learn a lot more business things than you do writing in itself, and I think it kind of made me realize just how much of the industry is not only a business like with giant IPs, but also like a self-starter kind of like small business that you have just for yourself. Like a lot of people think that you go out and you're just like hired by Marvel day one. You put like a resume in. I'm like, I want to be a writer, which is what I thought when I graduated college. Like I was Googling like Marvel comic book writer jobs and stuff like that. But I quickly realized that that's not necessarily how it works. And you got to learn how to like market yourself, but also like keep yourself afloat. And obviously most people do like creator-owned books and things like that. But even beyond that, you're essentially creating these books and then selling them on your own, which is like crazy. And that's something that, so like, I think the thing I've taken away the most is like how to handle that like back end of the business, which is like, how do you keep yourself going beyond the Star Wars and the Marvel and the DC and all that, which I would not have known going in, but now I know is like the most important part of being a writer, is just like find that it's not a side hustle, but like find that parallel adjacent hustle that keeps you going, or else you're gonna hit a wall eventually.
I'm curious about the IP stuff. I don't know if it's your department or not. What's it like when it comes to like something like Star Wars, where you got like you have to deal with both Marvel and Lucasfilm, so you kind of have to deal with like two companies at once, kind of a situation, or that's not part of your purview when it comes to like the comic side of things.
Are you saying like what's it like being that close to like both of those companies?
Sort of like the business side, right? Because like with big IPs like Star Wars, it's not like Marvel with like Spider-Man. With like Spider-Man, it's just Marvel. It's Lucasfilm. With Star Wars, it's like you got to deal with
the story group and all that.
At the business, and then whatever Marvel editors want.
Yeah, I mean, I think it knocks off some of my coolness points, but thankfully I don't deal with a lot of that stuff because it does seem very scary. Like they all seem like very, very wonderful, cool people. But it's also like going into or like touching a franchise like that is very intimidating because there's so many hands currently on it. There's so many hands that were previously on it. So yeah, I think Marvel and Star Wars being like two in the same now for the comics, obviously. There's a lot of people in it. And I think what I've kind of taken away for myself is that while it will be hopefully one day I'll get a chance to do something like that, it would be an honor. It's also kind of scary. So if I never get a chance to, write those kinds of stories, as long as I'm able to write what I want to do and have people purchase it and enjoy it and tell me that they love it, I would be more than happy. But hopefully one day I can wade around in that pond with all the different story group fishes and all that craziness. But right now it just seems very intimidating, but we'll see. Fingers crossed.
Yeah. I mean, it's reminding me, it's obvious that you say this, that you mention it, but with novels, right? I mean, whenever anyone asks, I want to write a Star Wars novel. How do you write a Star Wars novel? You got to write your own first, and you got to publish your own. It sounds to me, first of all, that it's the same with comics. I mean, that's kind of obvious.
Yeah.
But it also sounds to me, one of the things you're saying is enjoy the kind of independent side of it, the freedom of it.
Yeah. Is that a fair thing? Yeah. I've spoken to a lot of people who because I mean, like I'm very much just starting out, even though it's been a few years now. But like, you know, the starting period is usually the longest period, I think. I mean, I guess hopefully when you're made it, you know, you're made it forever.
Sure.
That's good. But you know, that phase just takes way longer than you think. And a lot of people think that you can kind of get those IP writing jobs just by saying, I really like Spider-Man. I really like Batman. Like, can I do it? And that's not how it works. You know, there's no one like just scouring Twitter for people who like are like, I think Batman should have 7 Robins all at once, and they go, that's an amazing idea. Here's a contract. But you have to, I think you have to do your own stuff, and I think most importantly, you have to enjoy doing your own stuff. You can't like jump into this kind of industry and kind of have the mindset of, you know, if I'm not shaping Luke Skywalker's life, I don't want to do this. Like I've spoken to people that have that exact mindset. There was someone that like told me about their Indiana Jones story, and I was like, you know, Indiana Jones is you know, an archetype character. You can give someone else a hat and have it be a different person, and that person wearing the hat is the Indiana Jones type, and you just take them on a treasure hunt. And they were like, I want to do Indiana Jones, and then I was like, okay, good luck. Like Godspeed then. So yeah, I think it's all about really just creating your own stories that you love, and then hoping that you can jump into whatever franchise that you also love. But you should always have those stories.
I do have a question though about that and your own experience. If you want to indulge, feel free. If you don't want to answer this, feel free to.
Also, feel free to duck if you feel like you can.
When it came to those IPs though, did you ever dabble in like fan fiction back in the day, like even the testing ground to like you know, your own writing skills, like, you know, like I'm gonna write Star Wars fan fiction just to kind of see what I can do. Yeah, I might never post it, but I'll write it. I'll have it in my secret Word documents. If when you were like younger or just kind of getting out, like was that ever something that you dabbled in?
Not really, to be honest. Like I was always of the mindset of like, these are, and this is like first and foremost, fan fiction is wonderful. I think they're some of the best things that people have ever written is fan fiction. And I think it provides this like comfort and this foundation that lets really great writers just write, which is like always half the problem, is like getting the energy and the mindset to just write. And I think it's really cool that people can just like do that, you know, whether it's like Doctor Who, Star Wars, Marvel, and all that. I think it's really cool. I've never like really thought about doing it. I think anytime I've thought about it in the past, I always kind of considered it almost like an untouchable thing. Like it's like, oh, I can't write Star Wars right now. I'm just some guy, which is wrong. Totally wrong.
Yeah, I'm like, wait a minute, what?
No, super wrong. Yeah. But I still hold off to this day because like now my mindset is like, one day, like I'm not gonna do it now. I'll do it one day. Yeah. Which once again, pretty wrong. I could do it at any point just for fun. But I've been holding it off. I do think it's really admirable. I do think that there's like I really like it when people do fan fiction and then alter it so they can release it as their own thing. Yeah. Because a lot of the times when I speak to like really good writers that do fan fiction, my first thought is like, don't give this to them. Like this is yours. Like change the names, change the stuff you need to. Like if you're telling a cool plot, like publish it, like make it your own thing. But I knew that some like the fact that like they're, you know, writing a story about Luke and Han, or it's fan fiction, some more likely like random clones or some background Jedi or something like that. I know that's what like kind of gets them going, but I don't know. I think that there's a lot of really great writers that are giving too much of their own really wonderful imagination to like a franchise that isn't paying them, and just like change the names, put it on out there, you know.
I had to ask like, if you ever did that when during your writing experiences, just to like test the waters.
Yeah, I mean, we know a lot of people do, which is a great thing to do. Yeah, that's fair. But you know, returning to Star Wars, you know, we are a Star Wars podcast, you know, because you are a Star Wars fan. I hope that's true. Yes. But also, you know, one of the things I'm curious about are how people with storytelling experience, writing experience approach Star Wars. You know, from having that experience now, what fascinates you, what interests or surprises you about it, what themes, characters, plot dynamics come to mind?
Yeah, I mean, I think the most impressive part of all of this is like what I found as both a fan and someone who's like close to the franchise. It's just remarkable at how they're able to like keep things in line. Like I think all the editors do an incredible job of not only just editing it so it's interesting, but editing it so it fits into all these different puzzle pieces. And I think that in itself is an insane accomplishment that they're able to keep things consistent and keep things meshing in a really interesting way where like people are pulling from one thing from another. And I think there's just a really cool sense of community just within the writers and the creatives themselves that I think is insanely admirable. I think it's really cool that they're able to keep it up for as long as they've been doing and will continue for as long as they're doing. And yeah, I love that it feels like truly like a shared universe where just everyone's welcome. And if you got a cool idea, put it in there. We'll see where it lands.
Yeah. I'm guessing Phantom Menace is at least a fond memory. Do you have a favorite Star Wars film?
That's a good question. Like I kind of, it's like I would say if we broke it down for each trilogy, it would be Phantom Menace, Return of the Jedi, and then probably Last Jedi. Like Force Awakens is close just because I remember being in the theater being like, yes, like freaking out. Whereas Last Jedi, I was more like confined and being like, what's happening? Which is like two very different movie experiences, But yeah, I would say probably Return of the Jedi is probably the top one, but Phantom Menace is also the one that like really like drove all of this to begin with. So like there's I think on rewatches it's Return of the Jedi, but on like initial watch it's Phantom Menace. I mean, that's probably the best way I can say that.
Did you ever go back and read the old pre-Disney era books, comics, or anything? Thrawn Trilogy, Tales of the Jedi comics, Dark Empire.
I've done a little bit. I've read a decent, mostly just the comics because the novels scare me a little bit. There's a lot of them, but I do want to do it one day. I really like. I think my favorite thing about the Legends, and Legends fans are upset about this, is that it kind of ends and is its own thing. I like what Star Wars is doing right now, and I like that there's so much content and things are coming out and there are all these really talented people doing it. But I also kind of miss when stories felt like they were like its own little like shared pocket of canon or the universe. And I feel like obviously Legends is a lot of different things, but it was also more likely to have that kind of like, Chewbacca's gonna die in this, or like something like crazy can happen. So I do want to kind of dive into those stories one day. But I don't know where to start. I'll do it one day, and I'm very excited. But yeah, I think my favorite stuff for Star Wars are like the stuff that doesn't always like fit. Like I love Star Tours. Like I think Star Tours is the best thing that I've ever done because you're just immersed in a thing, and it doesn't matter like what time period it is. You're just gonna enjoy the thing you enjoy, and then you go eat a churro.
Well, just like so, Star Tours. Good prequels that I am. I lucked out when I was at Celebration Anaheim. Just both times I was at Disney, that I got the prequel stories. So I was like, and awesome. I love that George was just so involved that he insisted on getting those stories in. So
I always say Star Tours is me at my most sequel hater, because I obviously don't hate the sequels, but when I go on Star Tours and they only give me the sequels every single time, even if I go on 4 times in a row, I always get crate. I'm always like, I just want an older one. Like, give me an older one. But I get it. They need to advertise stuff. But I think
you missed out on the oldest of older ones back in the 80s.
I did the original, like,
cool.
With Rex and all that. I don't have too many memories of it. I remember being afraid of it because I didn't really go on rides until I was like 12. I have a vivid memory of making my mom when they open up the doors to the Star Speeder, I remember just sprinting through the little aisle thinking that they would close the door on the other side and trap me there. And that's my main memory of the Rex one. But I did go on it a few times, thank God, before it closed down. And I wish they bring that back. It would be so cool if they set up like 2 because they have so many of the ride vehicles, like just put like 2 of them as the original Rex, open it up for like after hours events or something like that. And let me ride it again just one more time.
Yes. Disney After Dark. I mean, I have a
Yeah.
this fantasy of, you know, in Rise of the Resistance, just open that space up, the beautiful Star Destroyer space up for like a cocktail party or something.
Oh, that would be cool.
It's
Everyone
such a
dresses up
nice
as like
space, but
Imperials and stuff. Like
yeah,
you're just having a fun little gathering.
yeah. There you go. Just thinking about Return of the Jedi, about Phantom Menace. Like, what is it about those stories specifically that speak to you?
I think Return of the Jedi feels the most like kind of like a celebration of the story.
Mhm.
I think like I understand that Empire is better and A New Hope is also probably better, but I think Return of the Jedi at that point they were like they really knew what the franchise was,
Yeah.
um, and it just leaves you feeling good, leaves you feeling happy. Droopy McCool's in it. That's not the reason why I like it that much though, but I think it's just it really like knows exactly what it is, and it
Mhm.
like you leave it like at the most like ready to take on the galaxy, you know, like it open like when you're done watching it you want more Star Wars, you want
Right.
just explore this space and create these stories, whereas the other ones you know it finishes and you're like what's next for the gang, like we're like
Yeah.
oh Hans and Carbonate, what's going on there, you know, whereas I think Return the world's your oyster at that point. And then Phantom Menace, it's so nostalgic. I do rewatch it, and I understand that some of it is just debate for some reason, but it just everything lands for me. Like I think every little goofy moment, even Jar Jar is cool.
Yeah.
It's a movie for kids, and I think we all know that now finally because the kids are grown up. But yeah, it just reminds me of being a kid and like just being excited for nonsense, which is something that you kind of take for granted once you get older.
Yeah. And yet the greatest conflagration in the entire history of the galaxy, sparked by a taxation to outline trade routes to the small or backdoor planet. Like,
So
I
fun.
know, right?
When I was a kid, I thought that was awesome. I was like, cool, trade routes, let's go.
Economics.
I love economics. I'm 6.
What is economics? Yeah, and then, you know, The Last Jedi, just thinking about that, you know, on the one hand it's questioning everything we think we know about Star Wars, but yeah, I mean, it ends up celebrating it too. Yeah, and it's getting into the core. I mean, is that, well, are which of those dynamics, both those, would those dynamics speak to you about The Last Jedi potentially?
I mean, I liked in The Last Jedi that like everything, and I mean, this is one of those like compliments that kind of knocks the ninth movie, which is kind of what you have to do when you do The Last Jedi a little bit. But I like that every single thing that I thought would happen didn't happen like on purpose. Like that was their whole goal, was like, you know, we have all these traditional storytelling elements that have been a part of like giant movie franchises forever. Let's throw all those out. Let's, you know, things that we were setting up, like we'll figure out later, and like let's like rearrange the kind of like the pieces that are in play. And I really like that. I liked leaving the theater being like, I genuinely have no idea what is coming next. And I really didn't. But yeah, I thought it was great.
It's exciting adventure.
Yeah.
There you go. Last question I've got, you know, and again, preface this, you know, as much as we do. What kinds of stories would you like to see Star Wars tackle? What characters do you want to see explored? And what we're going to pick up later in the episode, why do you want to see Droopy McCool?
Well, yeah, I mean, like, I guess there's like there's two ways to look at it. Like one is if I like what stories do I want to do? Because that's the selfish part of me. And then there's, you know, what stories am I excited for in general? I think stuff like The Acolyte I'm very excited for. Like I as I said with like Last Jedi, like I want to go into a Star Wars project and like really have no idea what's gonna happen. Both from like a Star Wars perspective and just from like a general storytelling cliche trope perspective. And I think The Acolyte is gonna be that story. Like I really like the idea that it's set between the High Republic, between Phantom Menace, like in this period where there's some carryover from both sides, but it's really going to be its own thing. So any character can die, any character can have a different fate. You get a ton of lore about like the Sith coming back and all that. Like I think that's really cool, and I'm excited for more of that stuff. Like Dawn of the Jedi is gonna be really cool. I'm excited for the Rey movie because I'm excited to see the story continue. You know, I like the uncharted territories of You can do whatever you want. Obviously, stuff like Ahsoka and Mandalorian is fun, but I think the more that they add to those in between spaces, the less that they can kind of do.
True.
So there's wonderful moments and there's really cool characterizations and all that, but I think my brain just like craves like Uncharted, let's go crazy kind of stories. I think that's what's going to be. As far as what I would want to make, I mean, my like dream writing thing right now is to just explore like little side characters, like a Droopy McCool story. I think there's a lot of like little interesting creatures that just have like a few minutes on screen in some way, shape, or form. Obviously, there's from a certain point of view covering a lot of those, but like an even more certain point of view would be fun to like really just flesh out the galaxy a bit more, in like a more like story driven way. Like I think it's essentially taking the like paragraphs in the encyclopedia character stuff and just, you know, making it bigger and telling a story and like giving everyone who might not be a Skywalker or a Solo or a Palpatine like their time to shine in the galaxy and like have a cool story told about them. I think that would just be really neat. Like I just love the idea of giving everyone their moment in the spotlight. Or a Star Tours comic would be really cool. I've been talking about that a lot. I really want to do that.
Nice. I read that for sure. Phantom Menace from a certain point of view, 2039.
Exactly.
There we go. Right on. Those are the questions. I don't know, Joel, do you have any burning things to ask Tommy that we know we can ask?
Outside of Star Wars, I guess any particular other franchises or things just off the top of your head that influence you? Animes, cartoons, anything that you were big in? Batman.
Yeah. Growing up, the other, like when we're talking about like Phantom Menace and how that started everything, the other one of that, which was a couple years later, was like Dragon Ball Z. Like I was obsessed with that for a while. I've never really been too into it recently. With Toriyama passing away, I'm trying to jump back in a little bit, but like I remember getting all the action figures for that, having like 30 of them all lined up, and I would find like the most like dangerous part of my house that I can prop them up on, because that was like what my brain was for Dragon Ball Z. Was like they're flying, they're like on cliffs, they're doing crazy stuff. So I remember I would stand on the arm of a chair next to a door in my house, and I would play with the toys on top of the door. So they would have like a little fighting arena on top of the door, and if one of them lost, they would fall down to the floor.
Gotta do some kamehamehas.
Exactly. Yeah, there's a lot of yelling, a lot of like a little and like those little fight scenes that I would do like was the initial kind of, obviously like playing with toys isn't always the thing that like sparks, you know, the days years later a comic about grief, but that was like the thing that like when I was, you know, 17, 18, 19, 20, like being in school, like writing all these little stories, I would always think back to like the kid playing with his toys. So I think that series where you followed these characters through all these different hardships and how every single time there was like a rest point, they would kind of grow and evolve based on what happened before. That was always something that just kind of stuck with me. Like I thought that was really cool to see these characters grow, which I know is a very common thing, I think, in anime, just because they go on for so long. But Dragon Ball Z was the first time I'd like seen that happen in a cool, like crazy fantasy kind of way.
Did you break any of those toys when they fall off the door?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I borrowed my friend Nick's Teen Gohan, which is my favorite character. He had the Piccolo cape and all that, and I dropped that guy, and his head popped right off, and my mom had to go to the store to buy a new one. I don't think I ever told him it broke, but Nick, if you're watching, but yeah, no, they broke all the time. It was unfortunate, but worth it because the drama of it all, you know.
They are made of plastic. There you go. All right, that's great. Thanks again, Tommy, for going through all that and letting us put you on the hot seat for just sharing your interest in your career.
I appreciate it,
hopefully it keeps going strong.
Hope so.
we're gonna keep on the conversation. Shift gears a little bit. Joel, there was a trailer. Speaking of animation, that dropped. You want to lead us through that a little bit?
Yes, it is time, because we got a trailer for Tales of the Empire.
Yeah.
Order 66 happens. Yes, Tales of the Empire, not Tales of the Jedi Season 2, as we all thought. Yeah, this came out of nowhere. Very exciting though. Very exciting. We get to see Morgan Elsbeth's backstory, and oh yeah, Barris is back. That happened. That's not important. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Yeah. I'll just give my little spiel before I pass it on. I'm so excited for this. I especially love this direction overall of Tales of the insert something here later happening, because I think the Tales series is it's gonna, I think it could be used to tell the stories that are not big enough to maybe justify a whole series on its own, but not small enough where it's like you want to put it in a book or something. I think more people want to see this particular story being told. So I think this is a nice little happy middle ground between this and like a whole series. But looking very exciting. Love the animation. Gorgeous, gorgeous. And very excited for the characters they picked. But Tommy, what do you think of Tales of the Empire?
I think it looks cool. I went to the streaming panel for Tales of the Jedi was that last year or was that 2 years ago?
It was in Anaheim, yeah.
It was in Anaheim, yeah.
Yeah, I was there too. So.
Yeah, so I got to like watch the Baby Ahsoka episode streaming, so it was a little less dramatic than being in the room with like Dave and all that. But so after that, I was like, oh, like this is wonderful. Like I really like telling Star Wars stories like in that format of like kind of like quick. I mean, they're essentially like animated movies at that point. It's like 3 episodes each, I think, of the arcs. So I just love that. Like I like being able to jump around. It's very comic booky, where they can just like dive into any time period and tell a story and then jump out of that time period. And I'm happy that they're doing it. I think they're always going to be doing some kind of. They're doing Bad Batch right now, and I'm sure they'll do another animated show that's a little bit longer form after that. But just being able to like jump in, learn a story, jump out, jump into a different time period, like I think that's really cool. And I hope they keep doing it with all the different tales that people are memeing at this point now.
Matthew, what about you? What's your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I love that they're tackling 2 questions. We have one we've had developed pretty recently with Morgan and Thrawn, and where does she come in? How does she come in? What was her experience with I mean, almost the Night Sister version of Order 66, right? With the Separatists coming in, taking out Mother Talzin and everyone, and then how does she end up serving Thrawn and being part of what he's up to, what he's trying to do? Interesting. I mean, this might be the question about what the relationship between screen and paper for Thrawn is. It's always this weird thing where does it quite fit? Is Thrawn this? He's a villain on screen. The
answer is there is none.
And it doesn't. But this will be interesting because it's from Morgan's perspective. She's probably going to look to him as the response to Grievous and everything that her people suffered, and so that motivation for her to join up with him. So there's that, and then of course the question all of us Clone Wars fans have had, since the end of season 5, is what happens with Barris. We finally see some confirmation. We all speculated that the Inquisitorius would be something in her future, but what? When we discovered that Sarah Michelle Gellar's character wasn't Barris, I guess second sister, with another Mary Ellen, but different character, or in Jedi Fallen Order, that Inquisitor. We all speculated. No, we're actually gonna see finally now where she ends up, I think, and it's really smart of the story group to take the time to not give us those answers immediately, to let things breathe, let things germinate, and to say, I mean, for those of us, I mean, it's timely because we know how important she is to Ahsoka's story. Is there even going to be some sort of reflection on that, right? On, how she kind of ties into Ahsoka's story. We know she's got to know who the guy in the black suit is. She's got to sense something. We saw that moment in the trailer. So that just tying back to Clone Wars, tying again forward to Ahsoka, and of course my favorite part of Ahsoka was the World Between Worlds scene. So, or just that whole episode 5, and Ahsoka confronting everything that happened. Is Barriss going to get to confront things that happen? Is there room for some sort of redemption for her? Who knows? But it'll, I trust the storytellers to really explore those kinds of questions in a meaningful way. A character we've all, just she doesn't get much screen time actually in Clone Wars, but what she gets, we're all still enthralled with. This tragic story of someone who's driven so far in this thing we kind of agree with the Jedi. Joel and I, go back and forth about this one, but just how far gone they may or may not be. For her, she takes it in this direction that Anakin did to some extent, and in a way,
how you solve the problem.
Yeah, in a way, like she's also trying to serve the light in that moment, and so
by bombing people.
Yeah, well, that's just it, right? Very misguided a little bit there. So yeah, I'm excited for it. Yeah, those are my thoughts.
I also think it's an interesting parallel of the two characters they picked. Now, I actually think Barriss may have a redemption arc in her future because, you look at it's sort of two characters who are dealing with a tragedy. Morgan, we all know where Morgan Elsbeth, she becomes the thing she hated most. She is now burning other people's planets and kind of working for the people who burned her planet unintentionally. Well, yeah, it's all Sidious at the end of the day.
That's true too.
Varys looks like she might head down the Inquisitor path, but I don't know if her heart's gonna be in it. I think she's gonna realize maybe the Jedi weren't so bad. I think what replaced them is now 10 times worse.
Right.
So,
yeah.
that's my hot take there. Any other Tales of the Jedi? Sorry, I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna say Tales of the Jedi.
We're just
Tales of the Empire comments before we move on.
I'm excited to see Barriss interact with Vader. I think that'll be interesting. I'm a sucker for any time they connect Vader back to Anakin. I even if they overdo it, I'm like, ooh, that's some evolution of a character. Let's see it play out. Because I think that was the weakest part of the movies, which is just the unfortunate time passing. They couldn't do a lot to connect the original trilogy back to the prequels because they didn't happen yet. So any times that they can have Vader have to take on the past of Anakin, I think it's cool. Right. So that there's actual interactions. I hope Vader remembers her fully and is like, oh God, what is this? I'm sure that's happened with other Inquisitors at this point though, but that one I think is at least going to play out on screen, which is usually a little bit more heavy than some of the other mediums.
I know in the Tarkin novel. Sorry, my cat's trying to climb on me. I know in the Tarkin novel, Vader is still a little salty about Tarkin trying to prosecute Ahsoka, and that's why there's a little bit of a rift between those two at the beginning of the book. So, yeah, I think Vader might still be a little salty, a little miffed.
Yeah, I don't remember that with Tarkin. Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, but that Anakin Vader question. We're kind of getting it a little bit with the Thrawn Alliance's adaptation by Tim Zahn and Jodie Houser. That's always my favorite question. So, always, yeah, I'm with you, Tommy. Anytime we get a new story, with Kenobi, we got this on screen, right?
I loved it. So that was my favorite. Yeah. All my favorite bits of Kenobi was just anytime that they connected the past with it, I was like, yes, finally. That's what I was looking forward to the most.
Yeah. And then, mention all three of the Vader comics have dealt with that in really meaningful ways. So
definitely.
That's why I love all three of them so much. So, there you go. I guess one last question. Maybe we can take some time to speculate here. Future Tales of blank. What do we want? What do we want to see?
I want Tales of the Sith just because I think I could get my Palpatine Goes to Exegol animated thing.
See, you're up for anything about Exegol. There you go.
Yeah, pretty much. But serious question. More of a serious speculation because I think this would kind of aligned very neatly if it all plays out. I would not be shocked if 2026 Tales of the Mandalorian pops out. Maybe we get to see the Night of a Thousand Glass Tears. I forget what Night of a Thousand Tears play out, and Bo-Katan negotiating with Moff Gideon before nuclear fallout Mandalore happens. And maybe we'll see the Armorer's backstory. That'd be cool too. So that's more my serious prediction of Tales of the Mandalorian 2026. I'm putting some money on that one, but Tales of the Sith. I want that one just for a Sidious one.
Like Tales of the Mandalorians plural, I can see, and you know, I mean, I'm even my dad was wondering. My dad's kind of a not quite the Star Wars fan, but he likes Star Wars. But he's all, when are we going to see Tar Vizsla's story? That would be interesting. Yeah, have that in there as one of the I don't know, because we have snippets of it. Tales of the Republic. Just give me more Senate. I'll take more Senate debates. Why not? You know, just like different chancellors. Go give me Lena So animated. And give me Mon Mothma, Chancellor Mon Mothma.
Ooh, a lot of budgetary meetings.
There we go. Hey, all that. That's I think shout out to Ash, my panel bestie, Ash Wallace for that idea. Mon Mothma. I don't know, Tommy, do you have any hope Tales of?
I think the realistic one is that they're just going to do Jedi season 2 and then Empire season 2 and just be like good guys, bad guys, good guys, bad guys. But I just because I think it's going to start cluttering up a Disney Plus menu, and they're like, we don't want to clutter. But I think I think I would really care more about going into the different time periods. Like I would really like a Tales of the Jedi where it shows Luke with the school. I think that would be incredible. And I know since they touched it in Mandalorian, it's probably like fair game for them to continue that story through animated. I also think it'd be really cool to bring Mark Hamill into an animated story. I know his voice is like gravelly, but we can ignore that if it's like a 38-year-old Luke. That's fine.
It gets weird. I think he'll be fine.
Have him cough a few times and then speak. You know, we could take like a middle-aged Luke with a 70-something-year-old voice. Just go like, hey kids, you know, I think that's fine. And yeah, I think Tales of the Empire. I mean, I guess Tales of the Empire kind of locks them into a time frame where Tales of the Jedi does not.
Well, I mean, we see in the trailer though New Republic guards, so with Morgan's story. So
that's a good point. Yeah, and I guess as long as Palpatine is floating in the aura, still the Empire and Thrawn is still that's fair. So I guess it would just need to be I guess that works. It just can't be after episode 9, really.
Yeah. Just a bit of a misnomer title then, slightly then. Who knows?
A little bit.
Yeah.
Part of me honestly thinks Tales would be a better place to show the Ben and Luke things than maybe a whole series. I don't know. I've gone back and forth on that one. I could do that.
I mean, they could even use them as backdoor pilots.
Yeah.
Things, if they really want to.
I mean, Matt, just to kind of add one more point because my brain's now going. This is my brain. Now my brain works. Nothing says Barris has to die.
Mm-hmm.
And we speculate.
We all love her.
And we all speculate, it's Ventress getting the tails, but there's no Ventress tails. Mm-hmm. Ventress is now alive. Oh, well, that was in the trailer. You knew that already.
Yeah.
I didn't spoil anything. You knew that already, Tommy. I'm saying you never know. Ventress story might go forward, and maybe Barris will be a part of it. Yeah,
that's an intriguing possibility. Yeah. So we don't know anything. We're just speculating. That's what we do here at the Island Canon podcast. In the whole podcast world, right? And that's what's doing. So some good old speculation, good old fan theorizing. Right on. Do you guys have any last thoughts on Tales of the Empire?
Excited.
Right on.
It's $1 billion.
There we go. All right, let's then dive right into the last topic of the night. How do we decide to pronounce it? Gloop or Glup?
I've always pronounced it Glup.
Han, Han, ATAT, ADAT, Martian. I don't know. What do we think? Let's vote. Let's vote. Gloop or Glup?
I think it's Glup.
You think it's
I think
Glup?
Glup too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we're in consensus. Glup Shitto. Yeah. So here's a bold question, and I mentioned her already. And Joel, credit to you for this question. Did Mon Mothma start as a Glup Shitto in Return of
Where's
the Jedi?
Ash when you need her?
We need Ash.
We're gonna ask Ash
we'll
that
ask her
question.
that, yeah.
Tommy, what's your
what do you
answer?
think?
I would say no. I really don't think so. I think she had, like, we're talking like, I don't know if it was the same. I don't think it's. They might be in the same movie. What's his name? Wilro Hood. Is that how you pronounce it? Wilro Hood.
Yeah.
That's
an Empire.
Yeah. Guy. Like, he is one, and he's just in the background running with an ice cream maker. She has like lines and is integral to the plot. Like, I would say she wasn't, but also she's like a lesser known character. Like, I think it's just when you look at the spectrum of what people consider one, someone with like multiple lines and probably. I was gonna say probably a toy. They all have toys. Never mind, take that one back. But lines that like push the plot forward in a way that you can at least afterwards be like, the lady with the short hair that said all this stuff, and be like, yeah, I remember her. Like, I think that makes her not one. But also, now that I've said that, I'm afraid that someone's gonna be mad at me. She also could be one.
Yeah.
And that this is all a celebration of characters, and we love her. Don't be mad.
Way to cover the tracks there. I mean,
could be anything.
Yeah. I mean, it really gets into what is a Glup Shitto. That's the question. And so the origins of the term, from what my research told me, and if I'm incorrect, please do tell me. So it's something Gom Jabbar on Tumblr, and even people who still use Tumblr in the 2020s. In 2020,
I do.
Yeah, he posted this, or they posted this thing, kind of pejoratively, which is pretty funny. Every time a new Star Wars movie or show is announced, all the fans are like, "OMG, Glup Shitto is back!" Woo! And kind of poking fun at how excited we get for these obscure minor characters in Star Wars that we all latch onto. Now, there's no such character as Glup Shitto yet. I hope they never do one, but
it would ruin the joke so quickly.
It would ruin the joke, yeah. So never mind. There's never gonna be a character with that name. It's a stand-in name that's been replaced by kind of this type of minor character that we're getting into. You're Tommy, you're mentioning a character that doesn't necessarily have any lines or doesn't influence the plot. I mean, I guess maybe kind of the point of saying, "Oh no, people might be mad" or whatever. That the point is that the line is maybe a bit fuzzy and blurry. Either way, I find it the definition of a deep cut, right? That we know who those characters' names are. We know we kind of attribute why they matter, and I'll get to the fan speculation in a bit. But the real question for me is, what is the storytelling function of all these characters that we now, after 2020, call Glup Shittos, and the behind the scenes function. I find that's the thing with George. He really wanted to craft this rich world that feels real and expanded and lived in, the classic thing. So yeah, all the folks in the cantina, they all have names, even if it's this weird called Walrus Man, and it's on the card of the toys, and it's easier to sell toys and character name, toys with a character name. I mean, that's kind of my definition. Tommy or Jolie, jump in here. What would you have? Maybe a more I don't know if can say concise, but more zeroed in or more precise definition, or I don't know.
I would say I think maybe Tommy's right when it comes to Mothma. I think you have to be such an insignificant to the background character that no one really notices you, except for someone who's really paying attention. Like, you have the notes Matthew Wedge as the Glup Shitto. I disagree with that firmly.
Yeah,
He is not a Glup Shitto. He is at best a secondary character, and I even know that George even once considered him like, yeah, let's make him a main character if we get rid of Han. You know, Mon Mothma, Admiral Akbar. You know, Admiral Akbar actually has entire scenes and gets named, and like, oh, you know, we kind of know what he does. He's about the Admiral of the Fleet. Mon Mothma's a bit more interesting because she never gets named and kind of only appears in that one scene. And that's it. Then she goes away. It's not until the EU stuff that where fans really start to that's like she has a role and this is her history, and whatnot. You know, I think of characters like just who are in totally the background, like the robe visors. But yeah, I mean, having a toy or even having a sense dictionary thing. I mean, I think that's every Glup Shitto has that.
That's true too.
But
Tommy, you were gonna chime in there.
Well, I know, because it could go both ways, where people are like really adamant that it means that they're like background and not important, and then there are people that grow a connection to these characters. So when you say they're in the background and not important, now you're attacking their character and they want to kill you. And I'm very aware of both of those people right now as I say this, and I'm very afraid of it. So I would say that the most current definition of it, and this is very much taken the Star Wars fandom's like changing and molding it, is a character that you might be the only fan of. And I think that's probably the best way to look at it. It is a character that you like a whole lot, and there is a not zero chance that you're the only person that thinks about this character regularly. Doesn't matter how important they are. Doesn't matter where they sit in the hierarchy of toys and Wikipedia article entries and all that stuff. You like them a lot. You might be the only one. And I think that's the end all be all, where no one can be mad at me.
Yeah.
I mean, you think that person deserves more fans, in which case, sure, knock yourself out.
I mean, that's interesting because, you know, Star Wars is, you know, we're in the era of Star Wars now, where Star Wars fans are making Star Wars. And you know what? How many Star Wars authors, writers, movie makers are like, you know what? I really liked Alien number 3987, or you know, maybe a New Hope guy. I liked Walrus guy and the guy with the weird face. Like, you know, you watch stuff. I haven't got the
it's in a screenshot with a circle on it, like that guy.
Systems, and it's like, you know what? Now that I'm writing Star Wars professionally, I got my whole backstory. I'm gonna insert his backstory and make him an important character, and he's gonna have a whole arc and everything, and then that's how they get the name, and the comics and the Wikipedia article gets a lot bigger.
That's true. I mean, so my sense is there are kind of two general categories. Then it's, you know, the characters that haven't had a canon or legends or whatever backstory written about them, and then there's the stories that have. I don't know. I mean, so in my mind, Droopy McCool would be one. And that's part of it. And part of the reason I mentioned him, Tommy, is because, you know, you got McCool Nation right in your Twitter there. You're kind of known to be one of the droopy guys. Alex Damon, he's the bigs guy, you know. I don't know if anyone is a you know, a Dabuske or Bulio, Mark Hamill's CG characters. I researched and stuff.
That might be Mark Hamill.
Yeah, maybe Mark Hamill.
He's the only fan.
He's the only fan. I love the Joseph Gordon-Levitt's character in we talked about the character that interrupts Finn and Rose on Canto Bight, slow and low. So there you go.
It's interesting though, because you mentioned Biggs again. You know, Biggs, he had whole scenes with Luke, like, you know, they gave like, you know, like Luke's BFF, and he's like, I want you to rebellion, Luke, in the lead scene, and then in the extended cut, they brought Biggs back in. Without that, the lead scenes, it was like, hey, it's this friend that Luke knows, Biggs. Hey.
I mean, I think with like just because Alex's enthusiasm for him is in mind, to my mind, that is actually what made. I mean, that's the funny. He's a characters people love and find so important. I think that's kind of what makes them a Glup Shitto in a way, right? Just that enthusiasm for that. You know, I do have a section at the end about, you know, the place among Star Wars fans. I mean, again, this is kind of in my own thought of this. You know, feel free to disagree. There are these lots of, that's the thing about paper canon, is all these different characters that have had more stories. So yeah, I mean, Wedge, yeah, he has an important role in the films, but nothing compared to the X-Wing series that he has. He's the main character in those for sure. So that's kind of why my mind goes to them. Palpatine's advisors. So in canon, you know, we have Palpatine's advisors. I think, you know, Masamida and Yup Tishu and Sly Moore, you know, in the Greg Pak creator comic, for example. I know Sabe, she does have an very important role in Phantom Menace, but we don't know that until the end. So
I don't even think we know her name ever in the movie.
Right.
Everyone knows her as, is that Keira Knightley?
Yeah. That's true. And I love, you know, I've talked a lot about what Greg has done with Sabe and what Greg Pak has done with Sabe and Kit Sternwald. You know, again, talking about tying the trilogies together and how that relates to the Vader and Anakin story, and tying back to Anakin as a kid, giving more of these more time for them. Of course, Sabe with all of Padme's handmaidens in Southwestern Ontario, Z.K. Johnston's novels. You know, I mean, here's one for you guys. Do you think Wolf Yularen in, you know, A New Hope is one? He doesn't really get named.
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay, just throwing that out. And then, you know, Cassio Tag in Gillen's Vader comic. You know, and Tag and his family have both canon and legends. I mean, I love especially what Alyssa's done with Domina. Brilliant character. One of the, I guess, a few things, and I'm building towards a point here. Don't worry. I think of Cy Snoodles in the Clone Wars, or Cy Snoodles, who then gets picked up in the Clone Wars. Kind of like Droopy. One thing I'm thinking about, and see what you guys think of this, almost like a reverse Glup Shitto or retroactive one. This is kind of weird. Mando, you know, in Mandalorian, the Book of Boba Fett, Cobb Vanth and Chrysanthemum. If you haven't read those, if you haven't read the Aftermath trilogy or you know, or those comics that they show up in, you know, it's kind of this similar sort of thing where you could experience them like that, maybe, if you happen to pick them up. Of course, that's the thing. I do mention this a lot, you know, seeing Cobb Vanth on screen, seeing Chrysanthemum on screen hits different if we've read those comics.
True.
The point I'm building to is, we've mentioned these before. We mentioned the Fakpovs, and to my mind, you know, kind of the point is to give Glup Shittos their time in the sun for these. That's kind of, it's the culmination, the flowering of this whole fascination with these side characters, these minor characters, and I do wonder if that has given them, it has been part of what you know, has inspired the love for these side characters, and hope these other characters get stories. So I mean, I've listed a whole bunch of things, of characters, possible characters, and about the Fakpovs. You know, interesting to note, almost all of these examples are before 2020. So it's kind of, we're applying these retroactively, but maybe accurately. I don't know.
I mean, no.
Yeah.
They did a book about the weird lady bounty hunter who called in the First Order in Force Awakens once. They gave her a book.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Shoot. I know what you're talking about. The, like, in Maz's castle. So I don't know. I mean, Tommy, does anything I mentioned here kind of spark some thoughts? And
like, yeah, I think it's just all about how, as I said before, like how cool it is that there's just like a character for everyone, and I like that. I think one of the earliest like bits of trivia that everyone has for Star Wars is, you know, like, see all the people back there, like they all have names and they all have like trivia facts about them, and you go, whoa, that's crazy, why did they do that? And I think now more than ever, stuff like that is important when they are looking at the franchise as this giant, endless epic that, you know, needs to be just as filled out as our own world. Whereas back in the day, George Lucas was just like, being a little weirdo and just being like, everything does a thing, let's go. And like it was only those movies, so then that was it. And then they did the books, but the books were like, oh, like is it really involved? But now that everything is 100% its own thing, it just like allows you just to celebrate all like the little guys in the background. So anytime you have your chance for that character that you really love, maybe it's just because of their design or because of like the little funny scene that they had, there's always a chance that they can come back. And I think that's really great. It leads to bits like Veer's Watch, which once again, Veers isn't even really one of them, but where's Veers? We should all be asking where Veers is whenever Veers isn't on screen. But yeah, so I just think it's cool. I think it's like just a badge of honor for the franchise at this point that we're all just really excited for this nonsense character to come back and also to meet new nonsense characters. Like there's 83 of them just from The Last Jedi alone that you learn about on a daily basis because they can't bite. Like it's just fun. It's just fun. It's like a nice little discovery thing, and there's always something new to learn and a new little guy to obsess over, and I think that's cool.
Is there literally 83, or did you make that number up?
I made that up, but like it's probably more. I just learned about that little guy with like the tiny mouth from the deleted scene.
Oh yeah,
Canto Bite. I forgot his name. He just looks funny, and I think he's naked at one point. That's amazing.
I think it's Warwick Davis.
I think it might. I forgot the guy's name. There was one tweet about it that I saw, and then this is the best guy ever, and then I forgot about it.
Yeah, he does have a story in Tales from Canto Bite. So
I mean, it's another great example of modern day Glup Shittos, even though not really individuals. Look at Jeddah, like who are them robe guys in the red look like Imperial Guards?
Yeah.
Now we know who are those guys. Oh, they're a religious order. Even pain.
Yeah. So that's a good point too. I mean, just in terms of institutions, that's the beautiful thing about Jeddah, that of course Phase 2 is able to really dive into. Phase 2 of High Republic, who are all these groups and all these. It's part of the building out the galaxy. I think one of the things we've danced around a lot is what is the place of Glup Shittos among Star Wars fans. That seems to be the most important point. Because again, we know their names. They have a paragraph in Visual Dictionary. I don't know, Tommy, what do you think? What is kind of the fun of having a Glup Shitto, having a favorite one, and even knowing the term itself?
I mean, I think when you're a fan of, because like when you're a fan of Star Wars, like you can just like if you tell people I like Star Wars, they're like, yeah, me too, and it's like, yeah, but this is a spectrum to this, and I think like having an obsession over like the smallest characters, obviously there's the level of obsession in it, but also I think it means that when you're talking to another fan that maybe also has read a bunch of books and comics beyond the movies and the TV shows, it gives you a chance to maybe talk about something new with them as opposed to just doing the same thing every single time. So I think it's cool that, granted, like everyone knows who Droopy McCool is if I'm talking to them as a big Star Wars fan, but there might be like some nuance to the conversation and it lets you kind of just like rant about a character, even if you're not like passing along knowledge, you're passing along like passion, which in a fandom like this can only go so far when you've both shared so many shared experiences, of watching and reading and all that stuff. So I just think it's a cool moment to be able to kind of speak on something new in like a very loving, passionate way, that you usually get when you're like, if you're like, hey, have you seen One Piece? And then you talk about One Piece to someone who has never seen it before, you get that passion, you get that, pitch almost. So I think it's cool for Star Wars fans to have those characters that they like really like that may have been overlooked by someone who watched the movies once or twice and missed that character on Canto Bite. And now they get to learn about it and you get to talk about it. I think that's just like a cool, positive spin on it.
I'll add just something I wanted to look it up just to kind of prove my point, to see if I was right, and I was. Fans who eventually become authors can then expand on those Glup Shittos. There's a character in like those Star Wars Join the Resistance books with the First Order military officer. And that author decides, that character, that officer is a big important character. He was the stormtrooper who bumped his head on the Death Star. Nice. And I'm going to give him a whole future where, he lasted all the way to the First Order times. Nice. He saw the rise and fall of the Galactic Empire, and he bumped his head that one time. So he gets a whole story.
Yeah.
He gets a life.
As he should.
I mean, almost making me think, Thane and Ciena are not Glup Shittos because you can't point them out onto the, on the Death Star there or whatever, but kind of the same sort of thing, right? It's these the normal. I mean, again, this is the thing with Biggs. The normal guy. I mean, Biggs is a pilot, so I don't know how normal he is, but kind of out of the way, sort of not the superheroes. There seems to be a growing. I mean, this might be kind of in our age, right? A growing cynicism of the superhero, and we want kind of the everyday hero. Yeah, maybe this is this whole epochal cultural shift where we don't just want to see ourselves in well, we don't want to see ourselves necessarily in Tony Stark. Maybe we do, some of us do. I mean, do we want to see ourselves in Steve Rogers after the serum if we can't see him before the serum? It's just a whole other example.
I don't know if I agree with any of that per se.
So, well, here's what I mean. Is do we always trust a narrative that is just about the superstars, just about just about the billionaires? I love this billionaire, but it's the one billionaire I love. But that's the thing. Well, just to make a point, I think it's both. I wonder if it's both, right? In that the genius of Taylor Swift, for example, is she's able to actually present herself as the everyday person, even though she isn't. But again, I wonder, if that's part of this evolution of saying,
well,
we do, we want our Luke Skywalker, we want our Ahsoka.
Well, here's my counter to that, though, is sometimes these Glup Shittos, when they write them, they sometimes no, he actually was a Force user and a Jedi, and he actually became one of Luke's students. So it's no, they're perfectly happy with turning these regular people no, he's the next Sith Lord or the next Jedi Knight. So
I mean, it was I guess in Legends, the guy, the Tusken, who turns out to be the Emperor in a couple of centuries or something. Well, you know who I'm talking about. The Outlander.
Something like that.
Yeah.
I'm sure I can point to somebody who's oh, that guy was probably Force sensitive. They made that guy a Jedi.
Yeah, I can see that. I don't know.
So I don't think it's about making everybody an everyman, but it's no, I do think it's about expanding just background things and everybody's got a story.
Mm-hmm.
So I think there's that.
Right. Sure. Everybody's got a story. So we got a story. You got a story. I guess, maybe the last question, or one of the last questions, I guess. Gom Jabari's kind of implying a bit of kind of gatekeeping, or I don't know. We get is neuroses a bit of a too strong of a word. Is it kind of, we have to navigate this when in our enthusiasm to be enthusiastic about things that are obscure without gatekeeping. I don't know. I mean, Tommy, have you experienced having to kind of navigate those two things? I don't know. Or what do you think of that kind of tension?
I honestly, I think it's kind of the opposite of gatekeeping, because you have to do a lesson on the character just to speak about it. If you have a character that you love that is in the background or in one short story or something like that, and your reaction of it is to be I guess it's the whole you haven't heard of Droopy McCool thing. I haven't really seen to say that is against everything that it's against the whole point, to be you haven't heard of it. It's no, you haven't heard of it. That's taking away the question mark and making it a strong command at someone. And I think that's why it's fun. It's because it's taking away the mystery. It's turning every fan into a little teacher, and you're supposed to be oh my god, it's so fun to tell you about this. It's almost focusing on the character itself. You're not talking about this specific comic storyline or something like that. You're talking about a little person that you've formed an attachment to, that you're excited to talk about. And it just inherently is less gatekeepy. I'm sure someone's done it. I'm sure a lot of people have done it, but ideally it just invites conversation, which is hopefully the opposite of gatekeeping.
Yeah. Okay, I can see that. That makes sense.
Hopefully
I mean, it is funny with comment about with that Tumblr post. Yeah, I mean, maybe kind of turning the thing people are making fun of us for on its head. We're nerds. That's true.
Well,
uh,
I have one
go,
more
Joe.
question for Tommy, if you don't mind. All right. Imagine I'm Story Group. I'm Pablo. I'm whoever approves these stuff. All right. We want you to pitch us the Droopy McCool story. What is the Droopy McCool story? What is his history and his legacy in the Star Wars galaxy? How long does he go for? Does he go all the way up to the Rise of Skywalker? Is he on one of those ships to Exegol?
You see, I have the whole thing plotted out, which is not mentally well for me, but I don't want to say it all because like my stupid brain is like maybe one day I'll do it. But the Wikipedia article for Droopy McCool, which is all we really got. All we know about him is he plays that flute. His voice and his name are a series of flute-like whistles, is the Wikipedia quote. And then I don't know if it's still canon. I think it might be. I looked it up recently and completely forgot. But at some point, canon or not canon, the last time he was seen was going out into the Dune Sea looking for more of his kind. And I think there is a story to that. And I think the only thing I'm going to say on it that I have planned out is, one, he finds his family. That's all I'm going to say. And two, the flute that he picks up, I think, could really serve as an extension to his own voice, because if his name and his language is a series of flute-like whistles, him playing the flute is almost like a megaphone for his own voice. And if your voice is literal whistles, you probably can't speak very loudly. You probably can't enunciate. You're probably not very easy to understand for people that don't speak your language. So I think between those two things, the story would be about finding family through his music and trying to find his place in Tatooine and all that stuff. And I think it'd be a fun musical adventure of joining the Max Rebo band, getting into Jabba's palace, and then what comes after the big explosion when he's in the Dune Sea. That's my Droopy McCool story. I've told the full pitch to some friends, made two of them cry. It's a good pitch. I'm not going to say it here though, but I think he would.
I mean, what you just told us, that's lovely.
There's more to it. But he finds his family, and it's he has a happy ending.
I think we need like Kevin Kiner. We need Kevin Kiner to write a little piece for him.
Exactly. Yeah. A nice little jizz solo.
Yeah, there you go. I mean, what is it? So here's the great example of I'd say Glup Shitto. What is it about Droopy? I think you kind of touched on it. What is it that appeals to you?
I've admitted to this before. It really was funny name to start. But then once I got an understanding of his character as the musician, and once I kind of pieced together, I think it's my own headcanon at this point, but hopefully one day it's not. He reminded me a lot of myself and why I started doing music. I really saw it as an extension of a voice that I couldn't find at that point, because I was in early high school when I started playing guitar and doing all my music and stuff. So yeah, I think I found a character that I could somewhat relate to and kind of jump onto and put myself into, who just happened to be a weird lumpy sack of gray, and that's for the best. And he smells like vanilla, which I always forget to mention, but that's everyone's main fact about him.
That's nice. Yeah. I mean, kind of the way, this is a wider point, right? I mean, he's not a Glup Shitto, but Reed Silas is a character I very much latch on to, and for multiple reasons.
Yeah.
I mean, that's another thing. We have lots of characters we really see ourselves in different ways and parts of ourselves. So yeah, definitely part of it. Joel, do you have a favorite Glup Shitto and one you'd like to see more fleshed out in story?
Ooh, do I have a Glup Shitto? I don't know.
I gotta think of if I have a favorite one too. I don't know.
I know. I mean, I guess if for my own taste, I want to see more of the Emperor's advisors. I want to see what do they do? What kind of ministerial, do they have a cabinet meeting with the Emperor on a weekly basis? Are they in Palpatine's in his table? It's no, we must discuss regulatory tax.
And seance policy.
That's my word. And they're all taking notes. They're they're supposed to be really powerful individual to like run the galaxy. I guess those guys, because those are cool. Somebody did mention on our Twitter, if I can find it, a Glup Shitto. I forgot. Chancellor Leniver Villacam, who was the alien dude in Force Awakens and was the Republic Chancellor when Cosmic Prime exploded. It was based off Neville Chamberlain, apparently.
Interesting. Sure. It's like a anagram, whatever it is. I mean, Claudia Gray does a little bit with him in Bloodline. But I guess he's in the Aftermath trilogy too, right?
No,
no, he's not.
He's the guy from that's too early.
Who's the Chancellor in that? Why am I blanking?
No, it's the Chancellor.
No, there's someone else. Oh man, I'm just racking my brain right now. There's someone who she's allied with in the Senate to try and mobilize the fleet to Jakku. But there we go. I mean, another thing being obscure about it, these novel references from 9 years ago. There you go. Or I guess from whatever, how many years ago. Yeah, do I have a favorite? I asked the question, but do I have one? Or do I want one? I mean, I don't know. I mean, any kind of Coruscant guard, you know, just because I love the design. So maybe that's where my mind just sees it. I don't know if you can see. I'm gonna pop this up to the
right that's there. Cool. I mean,
on the flagship Star Wars Underworld, my roommate Dom, he's taller than me, so you can see it. But
I mean, this Tuesday, Matthew, we're gonna get a whole book about people who I would have once considered Glup Shittos.
True, the Jedi Council. Yeah,
that's a good point.
Yeah,
only 2 of them actually got name dropped. And like Yaddle was just, who's that Yoda with hair?
We had an extra puppet.
Yeah. I'm surprised I didn't think of that. Me being all prequel space wizardry. Yeah. There's my answer. The Jedi Council.
They are kind of that would be your ultimate Glup shit.
Yeah, there you go. And then maybe just because we talked about it off the top, ran similar question actually, but not entirely related. In 15 years, they make the Phantom Menace from a certain point of view. What story do you want to write? What story do you want to see? I'll let you manifest this.
I actually know because this is kind
Joe,
of.
Joe, go ahead. Tell me while you think about it. Joe, go ahead.
Rune Hucko, who I have on my shelf.
Interesting.
Who you can't see because of the light. Who is a new Gunray's assistant throughout the Phantom Menace. He's the one who goes, we should not make this part. He's got to get the purple hat. He got the purple hat.
It's perfect.
What does he say? I missed the
well, he said other stuff like he goes. He said a bunch of lines. But he's always with Newt Gunray, so he's always by his side. So he's kind of like Glup Shitto.
That's a good
point.
Yeah.
I would either need to do the first guy who explodes in the pod race, because I think it'd be really funny to give him like a hero arc, or like he's gonna like be the big winner and then he just immediately loses.
That's great.
Or like something with a battle droid, I think would be really, really good. I think it would just have to be a generic battle droid if I really want to give it like story, but just like giving one of those an internal monologue, I think would be so exciting and fun to write. It probably doesn't have one. I think it's the whole point of it, but also I think giving one of those, obviously there's a lot of gags you can do, but then there's also like the idea of like sentience in a droid that's made to not be sentient and just follow orders. I'm sure someone's done that already. It's been around for years and years and years now, and it's a very simple concept. But just giving one of those guys like a dream would be really fun.
Give me a dream, yeah.
Give him a dream.
You know, just no purple eyes. It's okay. No, I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. I'm just thinking now, a Padawan who is jealous that Anakin just shows up, and he has to navigate that jealousy. Be like, what the heck, man? I've been here since I was
they're like, at least he's got a dumb haircut, and then they're like, Anakin, let's go give you a haircut. And they're like, no, he's gonna look so good by the end of the movie.
Yeah, there you go. So, yeah, I mean, I think they got to do it. I mean, we're on the TPM at 25 party now. In 15 years. I mean, because the first 3 have done so well. So There you go.
Sorry, I was thinking of the youngling from Attack of the Clones. Like they're like Glup Shittos, and I'm thinking of the youngling from Revenge of the Sith. Like they're Glup Shittos. You can write some darks. It's like, well, I mean, Reva's kind of like that a little bit. She was like, what if we gave one of these young kids the story? And Reva's what came out of it. So,
yeah, I mean, we don't see her in Revenge of the Sith, but we see characters like her.
Right.
That's kind of your point. Yeah. Yeah, that's true. I mean, Grogu's kind of retrospectively like that, but yeah.
I remember
Tales of Order 66. There's another story.
One little tangent, and then we'll wrap up. I remember people back in the Attack of the Clones day saying Ahsoka was one of the little younglings in Attack of the Clones, but then I'm like, no, that doesn't make sense because she would be she's too young. She'd be too young then. She was only 13.
No,
but that could have happened. Like one of those younglings from Attack of the Clones Yoda's teaching, they could get a whole story.
Yeah.
True. Yeah, that'd be cool.
There we go. Yeah, I think it's kind of got our thoughts. You guys have any final thoughts on Glup Shittos, on Fact Povs, on all that?
Tell all the stories. Keep them coming. Every inch of the universe. Tell a story about it. Who cares anymore? Let's just have fun.
There you go. That's just it. Like, who cares anymore? Exactly. Right.
Write a 6-novel epic about a random trooper who then becomes the next Luke Skywalker of the next era. There you go.
Well, someone like Finn, maybe. No, I'm just kidding.
Maybe.
Yeah. I mean, I do want to see Finn be. I mean, the speculation of Finn as Rey's Padawan sort of sidekick. I'm here for that. Fun times. All right, I think that's a good time to wrap things up. Thanks everyone in the comments for chiming in. Let us know what you thought. Comment below, and all these comment boxes. They ain't going anywhere. The weirdest comment, I'll try and remember. I'm trying to point out there. Please give us a like and a share and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Tommy, it's been a pleasure to have you on. Thanks so much for all your thoughts.
Thank you for having me.
Again, plug away. Where can they find you? Where can they find your work?
Yeah, just follow me on Twitter. It's a stupid app, and I can't quit it. It's messed up.
We still call it Twitter.
It's still I'm not going to do that whole spiel. You know the spiel. We don't call it that. Tommy_Stella on that. I make TikToks. They're not Star Wars related. It's just random thoughts, but those are fun. That's just Tommy Stella. No things in between it. I have an Instagram. That's Tommy__Stella. There's 2 underscores because someone already took Tommy_Stella. And that's all of them. Don't follow me on YouTube. I don't post there. And we'll be doing another Kickstarter in hopefully a month or 2, 2 months, give or take. I'm not really sure the rules of Kickstarter. We're doing issue 3 as soon as possible. I want to keep the momentum going. But for now, you can read it on Gumroad if you missed the Kickstarter. It's like $4 for each issue. It's a digital copy. I'm only charging for PDFs, but right now we kind of have to with the Kickstarter. But one day it'll be free. But don't listen to that. I just have guilt. Don't worry about my guilt.
You gotta get paid for your work, though.
Yeah. Just don't worry about it. You can message me if you want it for free. I'll send it to you for free if you message me. You just find me on there and keep an eye out for issue 3 of Must and Tell coming to Kickstarter soon. And hopefully I'll have other stuff that also exists because I want to do this for a living. So we'll see.
Yeah. And definitely looking forward to running into it at con.
Yes.
I looked at flights and hotels for New York. So
okay, I'll be there again. I'll see you.
So here's hoping. I mean, I'm hoping you can come up to Toronto in August, but
maybe one of these days. Yeah. I wouldn't say no.
Yeah. Have you ever been up here?
No, I've never been to Canada. I was supposed to go March of 2020 of all times. And then I renewed my passport at the end of February. I paid extra to have it shipped back to me sooner because I was going to be going to Canada in a month. And then the whole world shut down. So
would that have been for Toronto Comic Con or for something else?
Oh no, a bachelor party.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Yeah. So I was going to go for that.
There we go.
But I was excited to see Canada for the first time. Yeah. So hopefully I'll go soon.
Well, if you ever want to just vacation, let me know.
Or come on down to good old Cali.
Or go to California.
There I've been multiple times. So
there we go.
Great place.
There you go. Joel, where can they find you on the internet?
You can find me, of course, at JID2020 2021. Again, GID 2021. On Twitter, you can follow us at IonCanPod. I remembered not the, yay, at IonCanPod, EYEONCANONPOD, where I type lots of stuff and whatnots and whoozits. That's what I do.
Yeah.
That's what I do. And of course, check out the Star Wars Underworld Discord.
Yes.
We're going to be watching American Graffiti.
Nice. Yeah. Check out the Discord. Last time I'll make this joke. Ask Ben when his birthday is. Very deep cut inside joke there. Sorry, everyone. But yeah, definitely tag Joel, tag me. We're ask us questions, chat away. You can follow me on Instagram and Threads, MNUG1138. Shout out to Toying Around for a really great first ever Toying Around Toy Con up here in the Toronto area. Dom got to chat with Paul Sung Young Lee. He was there meeting with people, and so yeah, this right here from that. And so shout out to Kev for putting on a great show. You can see my little con hall on Instagram there, and I'm on Twitter at NEUG485. So check me out. Got tweets about Taylor and Star Wars and soccer, and apparently there's an album coming out from Taylor Swift in a few weeks. So hear me, see me go nuts about that on Instagram as well. So and then of course at Iron Canon Pod, EYEONCANONPOD, Tractor Beam Comics reviews, Star Wars comics, and I think we'll probably get to an insider short, or quasi insider short. It's from the collected edition of Phase 2. So check that out on Wednesday, 9 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Eastern, right here on the Star Wars Underworld YouTube channel. Next week, what are we talking about? We are just dissecting the war in Star Wars. Is it pro-war?
Finally, someone's gonna dissect that.
I know, right?
War.
We might get like a whiteboard and markers and see what happens there. Yeah.
What's it good for? Absolutely nothing.
There we go. I am not quick. There we go. I don't know. On that note, the YouTube, it's right there, Darth Maul, if you want to. When we're done, just keep watching, and then also Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Check out that on the put that away. What am I doing here? Why do I have that banner up still? Sorry, guys, my brain isn't working. There we go. On Spotify and Apple Podcasts, and everywhere you get your podcasts, we are there. This episode will go up right after this in audio only as well. So check that out. But again, Tommy, it was great having you on. Hopefully run into you sometime. Joel, fun as always. Till next time, let's build this thing and head home.